I was sitting at home doing my research on some very complex topics, and suddenly I got an idea to recreate my first game but in 3D. But before we go ahead,
I have to show you my ultimate game
that I created when I started game development. Okay, so I accept it's not that
ultimate.
but I still had to recreate it. But it's not that simple and there are a lot of obstacles. And one of the obstacles is to choose a game engine. For those who do not know what a game engine is, so it's basically an engine for games, right? Game engine for games. So after a lot of thinking, I chose Unity 3D because that is the only engine I know. So let's create a first project and name it something original. Yeah, that will do. Before I even begin to code, I want to create a visual representation of the game. So for that, I will be using some professional software. So after 10 minutes of intense work, ladies and gentlemen, I want my game to be closer to my 2D game. So I added a sphere to shoot the bullet. But having just a ball is so I give it a personality with some dark and attractive eyes. Then I added a script to rotate it. Next is to add a bullet which we will control and direct it towards player. But adding the bullet was not easy, so I had to pay a visit to my only friend. So I finally managed to add a bullet control system with
built-in camera, high definition audio, 4K graphics, laser precision, water resistance, fire resistance.
After adding the base system, I then added a health bar for the boss. But shooting was too easy, so to increase the difficulty, I added a collider on the face. Now the boss will take damage only when the bullet hits the face. After all the base logic, it's time to make it more realistic. And what's more realistic than an enemy bleeding? So after adding the blood, I also added a collision with bullets to mimic the 2D game. Now it's time to make the game pretty by adding the environment. But before I add the environment, I need few 3D models. So the first thing is to replace a capsule with a bullet model. Now we have two options. First is to create 3D models in a software like Blender. Oh, so you don't know what Blender is? Blender is a free and open graphics software to use for creating animated visual effects and visuals. And the other way is to download from the internet. So I chose the hard way of creating every model. But then suddenly, I saw 3D models magically appearing inside my project. I guess the gaming gods are helping me. Maybe I am the chosen one. So after setting up the dimensions of the model, I then arranged them and made prefab out of them so they can be used later. After doing all the minor changes and writing the appropriate code for the creation of bullets, I then started working on the environment. So the first thing is to set up a boundary which I made using cubes. Now according to our visual representation, it suggests to add a character which will travel across the map and shoot the gun. And after shooting the bullets, they will be controlled by the player and our task is to guide them towards the enemy. Well, I already knew it would be helpful. So the next thing I added is a nav mesh. And then I added a character which I downloaded from the Unity's asset store. Now the game has started to take shape. Then I added few animations for the character like holding a gun, shooting. So for that I used Mixamo to generate few quick animations. Then I assigned them to the character and wrote some very complex code. So this is our final result. Then I downloaded few textures to make the environment colorful and make the boss cheerful.
Who's that Pokemon?
Then I added some UI elements for the player. After that, I added a menu system which I downloaded and modified from the Unity's asset store. Then I added some post-processing effect with an idle animation for the character when he is on the menu screen. Now the last thing to add are the sound effects, because some random person once said. Then I quickly searched the internet for some great sound effects. And after putting it all together, here is the final result. So that is it for this adventure. If you like the video, press the like button. If not, press the dislike button.